Hi, everyone. Today I have Carmen Hunter on. She is the founder of the Institute for Functional Health Coaching. And there's a lot of reasons that I want to have her on. One is the very obvious reason that I want to make a general plug for a health coach. I was driving in preparing for this today, and I was thinking that one of the things we've got in the American psyche is a do-it-yourself mentality. And I'm for that. I'm not saying we shouldn't be self-starters, strong individuals, able and capable of lifting ourselves up by our own bootstraps. And yet we are humans. We are vulnerable and we are imperfect. And I believe there's probably many reasons to get a health coach, but one of the most basic is that truth, that there are times in our life where we need help. So, because I hold that to be a truth, I wanted to come to Carmen because there are a lot of health coaches out there now, and I want help in understanding how to find a good one, and if there are specific things that a menopausal age woman should be looking for if she chooses to go out there and seek the help of a health coach. So, Carmen, it's lovely to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love that you are in such support of health coaches. It's so important we have people like you backing us up as we make our way into the mainstream with our profession.
It just comes from a very basic place. I believe it.
Yeah.
And I know, like, this is a funny thing to compare what you do to, and it's not even fair. But when something holds me accountable, I do it. I got good grades in college, partly because it was built in me and I'm that kind of guy. But no, I also did it because I was held accountable to grades and professors. And, I have to admit that if you strip that away, if you just gave me online courses with no grades, no accolades, I wouldn't do it as much.
Right.
Fitbits, they're
Right.
just a device. They're just a machine that gives you little firecrackers when you do your thing, but they help me do it. And
Yeah.
so take it one major step further and connect me to a human
Mm-hmm.
who is connected to my process,
Yeah.
understands my weaknesses, helps me to make wiser choices. I know that call's coming, and I'm going to have to say, this is what I chose to do. All of those things are just part and parcel to success, I believe, for a
Yeah.
vast majority of us.
Yeah.
Less than perfectly motivated humans.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I agree. And that's one of the reasons I teach health coaches to ask their client where they are. So where are you right now? Where do you want to go? And how can I help you get there in the least stressful way possible? Financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, all of those things. And you cannot imagine the sigh of relief you see on a client when they realize they get to set the tone for how quickly they navigate through the changes in the journey that they're going through. Many times people think that they come to a health coach and a health coach is supposed to tell them what to eat, how to sleep, what to do. And in reality, in my disruptive way of the profession, I want our clients to get more in touch with themselves, be more intuitive and instinctual about what's best for them, so that our coaches can stand over there and support them, cheerlead them, and help them end the overwhelm. That's the first step to reducing stress, and one of the best ways to actually walk through menopause in a way that feels not so scary and not so full of anxiety.
How would someone find the right health coach for them? Where would you even start this process?
Oh, that's a great question. Since we're not a regulated profession and there's not really one main hub where you can find, a qualified health coach. And not only that, but anyone can call themselves a health coach. The answer is it's not that simple. I think it would be find a functional medical practitioner that believes in using health coaches in their practice, or is able to refer them out to a qualified health coach that knows how to stay in their lane. And many times my students will say, how can the local person at the GNC in the supplement section call themselves a health coach? Because we're not regulated. So would you get the same advice from someone at GNC about insulin resistance and hormones as you would from a health coach that's skilled in understanding those topics by learning from a doctor or a practitioner, or even someone who just has that journey on their own? No, you wouldn't. So you really have to do your homework. You have to investigate, and I like to use words like functional and natural approach and things like that when I tell people how to search for a health coach. And we're actually building a networking hub right now. So my graduates are actually sending bios and headshots in, and we're building that page right now. So I hope to be that center for people.
You actually mentioned something that has been close to my heart for a while. And that is, what we do is train complementary medical doctors. Generally are the ones who believe in organic. They believe in what it is we do because we put our hormones in our organic base. But our roots are the knee bone's connected to the head bone, which is connected to the heart bone. Everything is interconnected, and
Yes.
nothing is solved in a vacuum, including menopause.
Right.
So we have had a side mission, I wouldn't call it a core mission, but important to us, to how can we connect the practitioners who practice our method with health coaches.
Right.
Because we believe in what you guys do. We believe that a health coach is an important part of it. And who better to go to learn about it than your medical professional if you trust this person.
Right. Yeah. And, I'm finding it's very interesting to me how practitioners are starting to learn about health coaches and how they fit in, and not just with menopause, but other things as well, that they're starting to dip their toe in the water of trust with health coaches, where they want to know that the coach knows that they are the practitioner and the doctor that works on the hormones and on all of the medical problems and the diagnosing and prescribing, and that health coach knows to stay where they belong. And that's working on the lifestyle changes and the support and helping them make sustainable decisions for their life. We bridge that gap, I believe, between the client / patient and the actual practitioner that is qualified to make those decisions and help them walk through those areas, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Before we started, one of the things you mentioned was the perception of menopause, both as a cultural perception. How do we, all men included, perceive this phase? And then more specifically, if I'm quoting you right, how does a woman feel about herself as she goes through menopause? What does she think menopause represents?
Yeah. So I was a personal trainer a long time ago when I started the health coaching process. And, it seems like the magnet was the menopausal women, or women that were in perimenopause or going through menopause. And all of the complaints were, I just can't get rid of this muffin top. I'm overweight because I'm menopausal. It's almost like they thought it was, well, because I'm going through menopause, I get this excuse to have this extra weight or to be tired and not work so hard. And I remember thinking to myself, this is kind of scary, because I wasn't to that place in my life at the time. And I had the nervousness and the anxiety around it as well. Am I destined to gain weight? Am I destined to not have a libido? Is this what my future looks like? Because so many of the women that I trained were in that place. And then I experienced it myself. I went through surgical menopause because of complications with fibroids and things I could not control that were affecting my life. And after it was over, I thought, well, when's the muffin top coming? When is this going to happen? And I felt fantastic. And then it came. And I fell into that same thought process, was I have no control over this. This is why this is happening. So I think that it's something that we need to prepare ourselves for in a different way. Instead of saying it's inevitable, I'm going to be this way, or inevitable that this is going to happen to me, I think that we need to relax with the process and say, I can move through this in a way that is not so scary, and I can have more control over what does happen to me, instead of, using those excuses. And I do believe a lot of women just say, well, that's just meant to be, but it's not necessarily meant to be. And then we have the men in our lives that are like, oh no, what's happening? And I will say, my husband at the time was, what's the matter? I'm hot, turn the air on. And literally 30 seconds later, oh my gosh, I'm freezing. What's the matter with you? I mean, that was the up and down, the hot flashes and the cold and whatnot. So to ask men to be a little bit patient with us as we navigate this, because I know that we can affect their lives as well. I think that's important. I think women need to see that men are alongside of us in this journey as well. And they do struggle with what we go through. So that's kind of a roundabout circling back to, the question about men and women. I think that we're all involved in this. If you have a significant other in your life, and we should all just take a deep breath and understand this is natural. but let's take more control of our thoughts and our feelings around it instead of just succumbing to what society thinks it should be. Does that make sense?
Oh, it really does. And just
Yeah.
to speak to the men, just for a moment, one of the core, I've been with my wife, it's Valentine's Day today, and I've been
Yes.
with my wife for 30 years.
Yes.
And I don't profess to be a perfect man in any way, but on my deathbed, the thing I will be most proud of was the husband I have been.
Yes.
And one of the aha moments I had in life was a really basic one, and that was that when I was a teenager and I was seeking love, I held that when I was finally loved enough, things would be okay and I'd be okay. And I wanted to be loved. And there's nothing wrong with being loved, and love's amazing. And I'm so thankful my wife loves me. But love is a verb.
Mm-hmm.
And men, I'm speaking to you right now. Let's remember to be loving. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing all this up because you mentioned menopause, and here you go. It does impact men. And what do we
Mm-hmm.
do with it? Well, I think what we should do with it is be loving through
Right.
the phase. And of course, it comes back in spades. When we are kind beings, generally speaking, it brings out kindness in others, and then we get the love we want. But I'm off on a tangent, and I'm sorry to do
That's
it,
okay.
but I wanted to take a moment and reflect with men as we go through this phase.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you 100%. And the thing is that I think it's important that men also not take us personally as we're moving through these types of things. It's easy to, when a woman is having a really hard day or she's had 50 hot flashes or whatever, to take it personally when she lashes out or she's not as loving or kind as she wants to be. Just to remember that, sometimes we just need a little bit of space to let go of the stress that we're feeling, and to for you to hold space for us without taking things personally, because it's really not about the men in our lives. It's about the experience that we're having and how we're moving through it.
And another thing that I'm reflecting off of what you just said was that so many times in life we can't see the crests from the troughs, and we can't see the troughs from the crests.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been privy to tons and tons of women calling in as menopause really hits with that feeling, that bottom feeling. And you
Mm-hmm.
said this first, and I'm just sort of vibing off of that we can't see that this is not a new permanent state.
Right.
We can only feel what we're feeling in the moment. And speaking as someone who's been near many women going through this process now because of the business I'm in, I just want to speak to that, especially if we're proactive through this phase. What next year looks like can be really different than this one. You haven't hit just a wall and that's it.
Right.
And men
Yeah.
too.
It's an ebb and flow, and that it's with anything. I mean, when you get the flu, you're not going to have the flu forever if you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You just have to, I think. Also, I love the word surrender as well. And I don't mean just surrender to the extra weight and surrender to the hot flashes and the misery you may be feeling. I mean, surrender to the fact that, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. The bad things shall pass and the good things shall pass. So getting, really connected to or married to a particular thing doesn't make sense. Life is always changing. And when we're in that space of menopause, it's really helpful for me, especially if I have a hot flash, which doesn't happen very often, but I just sit with it and I say, this will be over in a moment. I'm not going to get all dramatic about it. I just know it's going to pass. And when I do that, I've noticed when I'm relaxed, it moves through me so much quicker. Or if I'm in the middle of an interview and I have one, I might start to get a little nervous about it. Is it going to start to show? Or then it stays around longer, right? So our mind, our body speaks our mind, and there's a book about that. But so whatever our mind is talking to our body about, our body is surely going to respond.
Yep. Um, and just to circle back to where we began with this is not something to do alone.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
something to do with, in my opinion, a team.
Yes.
First of all, obviously I'm in this business, and I believe very strongly that the health benefits to taking appropriate hormones from a doctor who knows what they're doing are huge.
Mm-hmm.
But the other ones, why I'm going here is because you just mentioned hot flashes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Boy, you get to have so much relief there. And then, obviously, why am I on with you? Because what is the full team that we need
Mm-hmm.
to surround ourselves with? And it may not have to be for every woman, but my goodness, for the majority of them, I just see so much value in bringing a health coach into their lives. I mean,
Right.
I think I'll know the answer, but I'm still going to ask the question. Is this a true statement? When menopausal age women come to you and pair with your coaches, do they experience significant benefit?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And in so many different ways. One of the ways is because I believe that we heal through relationship in anything. I believe that we can only heal through relationship and connection with others. We were not meant to be put on this planet to do life by ourselves. And let's just face it, many women that are going through menopause, they don't have a supportive, they don't have someone like you. They don't have someone who understands what they're going through. Or maybe their relationship is so broken that they don't even feel comfortable leaning on that spouse they've been married to for 30, 40 years. And so to have a health coach enter into that and say to them, I've got your back. I'm going to be your person. I'm here to end the overwhelm and support you. That alone can relieve 60 to 70% of the stress a woman is feeling as they move through this. Not only that, but isn't it really nice to just have someone to say, I'm really struggling right now. I feel like I'm so alone. I don't even know what to do in this moment. Can you just, can I just lean on you for that? Absolutely. I'm here for you. What do you need to feel better? I truly believe, and I've seen this over and over in the 10 years that I've been health coaching. And again, now that I'm educating health coaches, I have seen the relief on people's faces and the way that they feel when they have that person in their life. You actually develop it's more than a friendship. It's almost like they become one of your family members, because they're walking through your life with you, and some of the hardest things about yourself you may never have told anyone else, you tell your coach, and it's confidential. And let's just also plug this in. You get about 15 to 20 minutes with a doctor conventionally. Functional medicine doctors are a lot better, absolutely, if they have a membership or their concierge medicine. But in reality, the majority of women get 15 minutes with someone, and they walk out maybe with creams or pills or something, but they don't walk out with a plan of how do you navigate the hot flashes at night? Do you have a resource for a mattress cooler? Do you, while I'm getting optimized, can you teach me meditation or how to move my body in a way that feels good? That's what a health coach can do. They can step in and fill in all those gaps for someone and just offer that extra support so they don't feel so alone.
One of my very best friends called me up a couple of years ago and said that he was feeling kind of lightheaded, so he went to a doctor. He's about my age, and the doctor said, "Oh my goodness, you've got high blood pressure. You have to stress less." And he walked out the door. And
Yeah,
that's all he got. And, bless this doctor, they're doing the best they can. This is probably the
sure.
emergency room. But what can we do with that?
I know.
We
We can stress more.
we can stress more. We need help, and we need a community, and we need someone to help us through these phases to make conscious, more aware choices.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are so many coaches out there that want to specialize in hormones. They want to be the health coach that helps women with menopause and hormones. And as I teach students, I say, I don't even suggest we use words at all, even in conversation, like prescribe, diagnose, treat, even heal. I don't typically use that word because those are medical terms and they lean out of our area. But what we can do is we can be that person that says to them, this is not forever. This is, let me help you end the overwhelm. Let me help you see stress differently. And like you just said a moment ago, I loved how you said the doctor walked in, you have to stress less. That's easy to say, right? Which makes things worse. And so I don't even believe in stress management or reduction. I believe in changing our perception of stress. Because as I always tell people, okay, you tell me how you're going to manage or reduce your stress. You can get rid of your kids. You can get rid of your spouse. You can quit your job. You can sell your house. You're going to have stress in your life unless you're a Buddhist sitting in an ashram somewhere. You just can't reduce or manage. So how can we look at things in a different way So the only thing that's an emergency is an actual emergency, and I tell my son that. I'm like, nothing's an emergency, but an emergency. We're going to be late, but it's okay. Life goes on. And honestly, sleep is so important. We know this, right? How many people are losing sleep and making menopause and any other illness or autoimmune problems worse by not having sleep? Well, what keeps people up at night? Stress.
Yeah.
So, I know this firsthand. 16 years ago, I was awake, fight or flight, cortisol up all night long. Even a sneeze or a snore would like jerk me awake. I had a lot of stress in my life. And I learned every night that I had a mantra that I said something along this line, says, everyone is sleeping. There's nothing I can do about this right now. It's time for sleep. And I've used it ever since, and I never lay awake at night. Because if the rest of the world is asleep and they're not going to be there taking your phone call or answering your email at 2 a.m, why would you have to get up and do that? Why would you get up and do something with that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a believer in stress perception and changing that, and just not really immersing ourselves in urgency all the time.
Well, I love it. And you just said it. It's an easy concept to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do we do to actually implement it?
Right.
So that it's not just a nice saying we've got on the wall, but we're living it and we're measuring it. And if you take our blood pressure, it's low, and all those other measures of stress. Are we successfully, not triggering the fight or flight response throughout the day?
Right.
Like you said, only a real emergency is an emergency.
That's right.
A traffic jam is not an emergency.
That's right. And I feel that, it's interesting that I also believe in energy, and how when we surround ourselves with people who live as if life is an emergency, we can start to take that on. You can actually feel, if you're in touch with yourself and you're present in your life, what kind of energy people are putting off. And I can tell you that I actually am very careful about who I surround myself with. So if there is someone that's always anxious and nervous and don't feel like they can actually take a deep breath, I choose not to spend too much time with those people, because it affects me as well. And that's something that I think we have conscious decisions to make about, how we spend our time and who we spend our time with. So there's a lot of things that we can actually do to make things easier and better. And a health coach is actually a person that would educate you on that. Let's look at who you're spending your time with. How are you thinking about the things in your life that are happening? How are you perceiving things to be? Is this really as important as you think it is? And a good health coach will actually help you investigate and peel away the layers like an onion, so to speak, and find out what is at the core of someone's problems, and what's triggering them to feel the stress and to have the conditions and the problems that they have. So that's what a health coach is really for, is digging in there and investigating and creating a way for them to kind of crawl out of that.
Well, fantastic. This wasn't meant to be just a plug for health coaches. I brought you on because you've got a very specific set of knowledge that we all need and menopausal age women need. But here we go. This has become a plug for health coaches because I happen to actually believe that its time has come.
Mm-hmm.
It's growing, and like Carmen opened this up with, because anyone can fly the flag and call themselves a health coach.
Mm-hmm.
It does require digging a little deeper to find someone who matches what you need and is well trained in what they do, so that they are of benefit. But that's worthwhile. That's worthwhile research.
I agree.
Anyone can be life-changing.
Yes, absolutely. And not every health coach, not every client is ready for health coaching. I will say that.
Yeah.
It's a commitment to yourself. And I always say to my own clients, because I do still health coach, I always tell them, I cannot be more committed to you than you are to yourself. So if I start to see that happening, we're going to have a conversation. I want you to learn how to care for yourself intuitively and instinctively, knowing what's going on for yourself and taking action steps so that I can be that person that's over here holding you accountable, which we kind of talked about a little bit earlier about accountability, is having that app or that Fitbit or that Apple Watch or something dinging that it's time to get up and take your 25 steps to the bathroom or whatever it is you're doing. A health coach can actually be that person that says, I'm over here, I'm thinking of you, but you are accountable to your own actions. I'm going to be over here just making sure that you're moving forward and you're not staying stagnant or still. Yeah.
That's great. Well, Carmen, I really appreciate having you on today. My feeling is that some people are listening to this and going, boy, I've learned a lot today. And
Yeah.
that's my goal in all of this, is that may every one of these interviews be important to someone, be important to a lot of people. And so once again, I feel that to some people, this is an important little meeting you and I have had. And we may have just been just enough of a steering current,
Yes.
someone
Yes.
to make a different choice because of listening to you here for this half hour. So,
Well, I
Carmen,
appreciate you. Thanks so much for all you're doing for women and for menopause. And I have just absolutely loved interviewing Dr. David. And we're bringing him back again. We're doing another webinar with him. He has been a fan favorite. So our coaches are talking about you guys, and we're just so appreciative of all the work you're doing. So thank you so much again.
all right. Well, thank you, Carmen. I really appreciate it.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye then.